Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we're looking at something that, honestly, at first glance, might look like a super dry historical record. We're jumping into Genesis chapter 10, often called the Table of Nations. Our goal? To decode this massive list of 70 ancient names. And look, I promise we aren't just going to sit here reading a phone book. We're actually going to uncover this incredible cosmic story of two competing kingdoms that kicked off right after the global flood.
Now, you might be thinking, genealogies, really? They're kind of boring. It's just a bunch of so-and-so begot so-and-so, right? But stick with me, because this specific family tree is literally the key to understanding world history. It answers a huge question. How in the world did one single family branch out to create the massive, aggressive empires of Babylon and Assyria, the people of Israel, and even the deep cultural and geographical divides we still deal with today? As you'll see, all these puzzle pieces fit together perfectly.
Part 1. Humanity's post-flood reboot and the spread.
So after the flood, humanity gets a total reboot. God gives Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, a really clear command. He tells them to be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. And this wasn't just a friendly suggestion. It was a divine mandate to spread out and repopulate a completely washed-clean world. The historical record tracks these 3 brothers' descendants, branching out into exactly 70 nations. And why 70? Well, in ancient biblical literature, 70 is a hugely symbolic number. It means completion or totality. It's basically telling us, hey, this isn't just a random list of tribes. This is the whole shebang. Every single nation on Earth spread from this one incredible starting point. Okay, let's dive into this. We can actually see how humanity fanned out across the globe. Japheth's line makes up 14 of those nations, mostly heading north and west toward Europe and Asia Minor. Then you've got Shem's line, with 26 nations, settling out east in Mesopotamia. And Ham actually takes the biggest slice, with 30 nations, migrating south and southwest toward Africa and Canaan. It is a really neat visualization of one unified family expanding to the corners of the known world.
Part 2. Nimrod and worldly power.
So when we zoom in on Ham's lineage, the plot really thickens. Up until now, people are mostly just having kids and moving around. But then we hit one specific guy who completely changes the game, Nimrod. Now, in ancient times, names meant everything, and Nimrod literally translates to rebel. The text actually calls him the first on earth to be a mighty man of power. So we're not just talking about a tough guy who's good at hunting animals. No, this guy is the ultimate archetypal rebel. He's the very first architect of worldly empires, gathering up human power to build his own kingdom. It's the ultimate showdown between worldly ambition and God's kingdom.
You've actually probably heard the famous phrase about him, a mighty hunter before the Lord. Honestly, on the surface, that sounds kind of like a compliment, doesn't it? But if you dig into the historical commentaries, it implies something much darker. Being a hunter before the Lord here means he was arrogant, bloodthirsty, and conquering other men. And it was doing it all in direct, brazen defiance of God. It's total rebellion. For us modern believers, Nimrod's life is a stark warning about the dangers of chasing our own aggressive ambitions instead of practicing godly submission.
So what did this rebel actually build? His massive projects included Babel, which you probably know as Babylon, as well as Erech, Akkad, and Nineveh in Assyria. And Babel and Assyria, they eventually become these ultimate symbols of systemic evil, idolatry, and basically the greatest historical enemies of God's people. Nimrod literally laid the groundwork, both geographically and spiritually, for the empires that would try to tear down God's work for centuries to come.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is part 3, Shem, Eber, and redemptive history.
While Nimrod is out there loudly stomping around and making a huge name for himself, God is quietly orchestrating a counter-movement through the line of Shem. And we've got to look at one specific descendant here, Eber. His name literally means crossing over, or the one from the other side. This is absolutely vital because Eber marks the linguistic and spiritual origin of the Hebrew people. And the Hebrews play the most crucial, foundational role in God's redemptive history. While the rest of the world crossed over into rebellion with Nimrod, Eber's line was specifically set apart for God's redemptive purposes.
We are basically looking at a massive tale of 2 totally different kingdoms here. On one side, you've got Nimrod's kingdom. It's loud, it's all about physical empires, violence, and desperately grabbing for self-glory. But on the other side, you have Eber's kingdom. It's marked by quiet obedience. It's about a lasting spiritual legacy, patiently waiting on God, and being the vital link in this huge redemptive plan. It's an incredible historical contrast between human pride and godly submission. And if you want proof of how devoted Eber was to God's plan, just look at what he names his son. He names him Peleg, which literally means division. Why? Because, as the ancient text notes, in his days the earth was divided. Eber chose this name to permanently memorialize what happened at the Tower of Babel. It was his way of recognizing God's heavy righteous judgment on Nimrod's global rebellion. He literally stamped that profound truth right onto his own family line for generations to remember. Let's move to and see how this builds. Tracing this chronological thread shows us exactly where Eber's quiet legacy leads. We go from the flood, down to Shem, straight to Eber, the father of the Hebrews. Then from that exact line comes Abraham, the father of faith. And ultimately from Abraham's line comes the Messiah. Think about that. While Nimrod was busy stacking mud and brick for temporary empires, God was actively paving the way for eternal salvation right through the middle of humanity's chaos. He was weaving a redemptive thread that would change the universe. Part 4, Babel to Today, Unity Across All Nations. You see, the ultimate dispersal of these 70 ancient nations isn't just an interesting historical footnote. It has intense, direct relevance to how we view the world right now. When God scattered the people at Babel, his grace and divine sovereignty were fully at work to keep humanity from destroying itself through unified rebellion. But the immediate result created 3 deep-seated divides: geography, language, and families. And these quickly evolved into territorial wars, communication breakdowns, and racial prejudice. Guys, these are the exact same worldly conflicts and discriminations we're grappling with today. The core message here becomes crystal clear when you put these two methodologies side by side. The world's way, which comes straight from Nimrod, tries to force unity from the outside in, using pride, conquest, and centralized power. But just like Babel, it always ends in chaos and division. On the flip side, God's way operates purely on grace and divine sovereignty. Even while scattering the nations, God was gracefully setting the stage to send the Messiah, bringing about a true, lasting internal unity that no worldly empire could ever pull off.
And that leads us to this incredibly powerful reality found in Colossians 3:11. Here there is not Greek and Jew, circumcised and uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave, free, but Christ is all and in all. The profound truth here is that in God's kingdom, the intense cultural, linguistic, and racial fractures that started way back in Genesis 10 are completely healed by Christ. The curse of Babel gets completely reversed, and the descendants of those 70 original nations are brought right back together under one single Savior.
Which leaves us with this final, really vital question to ponder. If all of humanity shares one single origin, and we are offered one unified Savior, how can we, as modern believers, build true multicultural Christian unity, rather than constructing our own modern Babels of pride and division? It's a huge challenge, for sure, but looking at how God has sovereignly orchestrated history, it's a calling we are absolutely equipped to meet. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep seeking the truth, and I'll catch you next time.